Hey, how's it going, Keith?
Hey, good morning to you. I'm quite well. How are you?
Doing fantastic, doing fantastic. Well, the last time that we spoke back in July, it was a day removed from when you won the NXT Championship, became the dual champion back in NXT, as the North American champion as well. Almost exactly 6 months later, you're going to be contending for the WWE Championship on the very first episode of Raw, which we've seen quite a few times over the years. Mankind obviously won the WWE Championship on the first Raw of 1999, among many other opportunities as well. How does it feel to be walking into the first Raw of 2021 in a WWE Championship opportunity?
Hmm. I would say that it's a little nerve wracking and somewhat surreal, considering the names that you mentioned previously and the history behind it. But also, to an extent, kind of feels natural
Mm-hmm.
because somehow, some way, I tend to find my way into opportunities. It's never easy, and it's never hurry up and go get it. But one way or another, I managed to find a way. And here we are again with another opportunity to start off the year strong. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm excited about it.
You mentioned on Raw Talk this past week that you want to make yourself a legend this coming night on Raw because, of course, it's Legends Night, that edition of Monday Night Raw. And you guys have had some few matches before on the main roster as well as beyond WWE. You and Drew McIntyre, two previous matches a couple of months ago. How is this match going to be different than any other encounter that you guys have had up to this point, aside from the fact that, of course, the WWE Championship is going to be on the line?
Well, I mean, to be fair, we've had an encounter where the WWE Championship was on the line and
Mm-hmm.
we had an interference from Randy Orton. The biggest difference is in that match where we met, Drew was injured.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that was difficult to deal with. And in this match, number one, Drew is not injured. And at this point, I'm a little peeved with the situation with Sheamus.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's going to be less hesitation and a little more intentionality, especially with the goals that I have in mind for myself.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, the last time that we spoke was way back when in July. And at that point, I was asking you about the whirlwind of the year that you had from Survivor Series of 2019 up until that point, up until becoming NXT champion. The last 6 months have been pretty crazy as well, from winning the NXT championship, making the immediate move to Monday Night Raw, competing at Survivor Series, beating Randy Orton at Payback, now finding yourself in a WWE title opportunity next week on Raw. How much of a whirlwind have the last 6 months been for you in WWE?
So I think that the nature of the beast that is this sport is a whirlwind in general,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all hectic and it's all a little chaotic. In NXT, it felt more like a controlled chaos. And I think that when I came up to Raw, it just kind of became chaos all out. And
Mm-hmm.
so there was, adjustments to be made and also strategic moves to be made on my part to try and make the biggest impact as possible. And it just kind of threw me into the deep end of the water
Mm-hmm.
right away, which is kind of what I like. Somehow I've managed to swim, and the idea is to keep swimming until I'm standing on top of the water. And at this point, the opportunity is in front of me to make it happen, man. So
Mm-hmm.
it's chaotic, it's a whirlwind, but that's kind of what I thrive in. So I have no problems with that.
Have you had a chance to be able to reflect back on the last year that you've had in 2020 going into 2021, or has it been so chaotic that you really haven't had a chance to let it sink in yet?
I take my moments, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where, if it's as simple as me hopping on the motorcycle and going for a ride, or even if it's in a workout, or there's always some moment where I'll kind of sit back and just breathe. And there's times where maybe meditation, but I always try and take a moment to look back at things and either see if there's something I could have done better, or maybe how I can do things better in the future, or maybe it's a strategic approach. Anything I can do to get myself mentally prepared, because it's difficult to keep one's mind intact sometimes when it comes to the recklessness that is this sport.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any one key piece of advice that you've had since coming to the main roster, whether it be from someone backstage or a family member or a friend or a legend or whoever, that you've received in the last 6 months that has really stuck with you now that you're on the Monday Night Raw roster?
It's so that's a difficult thing. Yes and no, because you get verbiage from people quite often, right? And some people are friends, some people are peers, some people are people you're just meeting. Sometimes it's a Vince or it's a Triple H, and there's always something to take. And I think that while I could say yes, more so it's probably the culmination of everything, and just kind of picking pieces out of each thing for myself and trying to make the most of the large amount of information being given to me.
We had your 24 come out on the WWE Network just a couple of weeks ago. It was a great piece of business. The 24s are always great, but yours particularly was very, very good. What was the feedback like that you received from the special that aired on the network a couple of weeks ago?
Actually, yeah, that was kind of surreal, man. Because I'm really not one that likes to share personal stuff, and then obviously I didn't share every single thing, but giving people an idea of what Keith Lee's life was like and where he came from and things of that sort was a little nervous situation for me because I just don't do that. But a lot of people really enjoyed it, and I don't know, maybe they felt closer to me or felt like they understood me a little better. Well, they certainly understood where certain things about me came from. And the overall feedback felt very positive. So I was very appreciative of people's accepting nature of the film itself.
How did the documentary come about? Because obviously it kind of culminated with you arriving on the main roster back in August. How far back did you know about the documentary being made before it finally aired a few short weeks ago around Survivor Series time?
I honestly didn't know about it very close to it at all.
Yeah.
And really, that's because it was not supposed to be anything other than this is his debut on Raw and how we got here. And then as I had conversations with people, and as we talked about more things and other opportunities came about to talk to family and things of that sort, they were like, listen, this can turn into something really cool if you're up for it. And that team, I give them all the credit because they were great. They were fun to work with. My family enjoyed them. I enjoyed them. And I gave the reins to them. And it became so much more than just 24 of Keith Lee debuting on Raw. This became a 24 of, here's how Keith Lee got here. This is what he went through to get here. This is where he came from. This is how he grew up. You're meeting a man, and what you see is the culmination of all these things. And to me, that's such a cool approach to it, and being able to include friends and peers and things of that sort, people that have been mentors in the documentary itself was just like super touching, man. Super touching. It's magic.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's safe to say it resonated with a lot of people, which was really cool. So again, it culminates with your debut on the Raw roster the night after SummerSlam, kind of a lot like the night after WrestleMania, where things kind of reset and whatnot. Obviously, a lot of people were opinionated regarding the whole theme song thing, the theme song change. You have a new theme song now that you debuted back at Survivor Series, which was great. We're hearing that now every week on Raw. What was that process like, getting the song that you have now, the change? Because you said from the very get-go, listen, guys, I got this handled. I got this, under lock and key, whatever. You got it figured out. You have the song now. Can you explain the whole process and going from the song you had in NXT to what you then had when you came to Raw to then getting what you have now?
That was something else.
Yeah.
So originally, man, honestly, even I was a little perplexed, right? You got all the people that came up to Raw, who still used their old music.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, none of them did their own music. I'm the only one that did.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make more sense for me to be the one to keep using my music.
Mm-hmm.
However, that did not happen. So
Yeah.
they asked me to use something else.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and I tried to be as accommodating as possible by putting the front of the song on that track.
Yep.
And it just didn't vibe. It was rough, man. So, I did the best I could given the circumstances, and I was like, I just gotta rock with this until I can figure something out.
Yeah.
And man, the way that blew up on the internet. It was like, man, I thought you guys were my friends.
Yeah, right.
I think I'm starting to understand some things here, but yeah, between the gear and the music, I just got destroyed. I was like, okay, so what can we do? So
Yeah.
like, I've got to have patience. I've got to own this thing while I have it. I don't have a choice. Like, this is just the way it is. And some people have to understand that. In the world of business, you just can't get everything you want right away.
Exactly.
That's not the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked them. I said, "Hey, give me some time. Like, I understand this is not the best case scenario, but this is the scenario I've been given. Like, I thought I would have some time, maybe take some little time off and kind of figure things out before, but it went from like, all right, takeover's done to you're debuting on Monday, and it was like, holy, okay,
Yeah.
I have nothing ready, nothing at all."
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I didn't know that I was going to have to change music, so I had nothing ready.
Mm-hmm.
So, over time, eventually, people backstage were like, "Hey, y'all got to let Keith do his thing."
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually they were like, "Well, do you think you could write something and then maybe record it again?" And I was like, "Yeah, just give me the okay."
Mm-hmm.
And it took a little time, but eventually I wrote something and got with the music guys, and over a little bit of time, we managed to put something together I was happy with. And even though the one that I'm using right now is actually a different version than what I wanted to use,
mm-hmm.
but it's for what it is. I'm very happy to have something that I at least wrote and performed.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's still really, really good. The original theme song was great, but this one's still great as well. You mentioned with the debut, you arrive on Raw with the new theme song, so that kind of shook people itself, but then you mentioned the attire as well. Was that kind of along the same lines where they wanted you to come up with a different look, or was that a Keith Lee call? Did you want to come up with something completely different? And you mentioned how you didn't really have time to prepare. Was that kind of the same story with the gear as well?
So, actually, yeah, that's actually something that didn't make it into the documentary, because I actually talked about it.
Oh, okay.
It just didn't fit in the time frame and the story that was going on in the documentary.
Sure.
But yeah, I wanted to do something different. And what I had was supposed to be a trial thing to see how it looked and felt, and I was going to, like, go train in it and just kind of see. But I personally, the sleeveless shirt look is something I actually like and have worn before.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't mind it. Now the shorts were, that was a flop. And no one knew it would be because they were rushed, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm on Raw now. I wanted to try this new look. Can you make this in 36 hours?
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, I'll try something. And then the first set was wrong. So it was like, all right, that's bad fabric. Let's try something a little more loose. And then what we went with was so it was like from the front it didn't look that bad, but man, actually from the side it didn't look that bad. From the front it looked like this situation that was just unfavorable and unsavory. And that's, like, as soon as I wore them, I was like, this was all I had. Guys, I'm sorry. I was not prepared. No, nobody really cared. It was just a chuckle for me and the boys, but the fans, oh my God. For me, it was like, all right, I got the boys a laugh for the night, and I tried these things out. I committed, and I knew I was switching. Like, the moment I wore it, as soon as my match was over, I texted my dear lady, Miss Jolene, and I said, hey, we got to get these shorts back. We got to get the tights going because these shirts are not going to cut it. She's like, I'm already on it. Thank you so much. So she's a sweetheart, and I was grateful for her because the hecticness of those first 3 weeks of being on Raw was unruly, man. Unruly.
Yeah. The reaction was crazy, dude. Because like you said, so you get the reaction when you get to Raw with the theme song, the attire, and then people forget you beat Randy Orton at Payback in your first singles match on pay-per-view. So it's less about the theme song and the attire than it is the fact that you were winning straight out of the gate and facing Drew McIntyre and Orton in these high-profile main events. You're going to face McIntyre next week as well. So already in Raw, you faced Orton, you faced Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Riddle, AJ Styles, Braun Strowman, the list goes on, among other people. Do you have any realistic dream opponents, whether they be on Raw, SmackDown, a legend, part-timer, whatever, that you want to face at some point in WWE? And is Brock Lesnar among them after the clash that you guys had in the Rumble earlier this year?
I think that Brock Lesnar has to be like at the top of the list just based on the people. You know what I mean? Obviously, they've seen some inconclusive things with Brock and with Roman, and those are two things I know they want, like drooling for it even. But for me personally, I know at some point, if I had my choice, because, pardon me, thanks to Corbin, my number one match that I wanted is gone, which was Kurt Angle. But if I could just have a knockdown, drag-out battle with Cesaro, that is one thing that I want. But there's other guys, man. Like, I would be honored to battle it out with Shinsuke Nakamura. But I want the handcuffs off. I know what these guys are capable of.
100%.
When they can cut loose. So, these are the I want the battles that are top tier at all times. So that's just how I feel. That's what makes my engine go. But I feel like, when I come out of NXT and came here, the most exciting thing was the fact that I hadn't fought the majority of the guys on this roster. So you could say, dude, I just kind of want to fight everybody I haven't fought. That includes legends, man. Yeah. But I know, not everybody's available. But, I'd love to step in the ring with any and everyone. That's just my nature. Like, competition is what makes my blood boil.
Yeah. Goldberg, too. I think that'd be a very interesting matchup as well.
I'd love to, and people have their stigmas about Mr. Berg, but that guy, he probably doesn't even remember this, but the year that Mania was in New Orleans.
Oh, the second time?
This is the most recent time.
Oh yeah, okay, so in 2018 then, and I think it was 34, yeah.
So, that was right before I got signed, right?
Yep.
And I was out with some buds, obviously indie guys, just having a good time. And then there were some fans there having a good time. And I was hanging out with some buds, and there was a couple fans around us. And Goldberg comes walking down the street. And I'm like, I think it was Bourbon Street, maybe.
Sure.
And as he's walking down, one of the fans is just like, hey, Goldberg! He stops. And he's a very intense guy. So he's like staring a hole in this dude. And this fan does not flinch, my man. He's just like, You see this guy right here? He's Keith Lee. He's going to come to the WWE and beat you one day.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, wait, what? I didn't sign up for you to do that. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And he looks at me, and he takes a couple steps toward us. And he looks at me, he looks at him, and he kind of takes a little grin and looks at me. He goes, whenever you get there, change nothing about you. Which, to me, meant he has an idea who I am. And I'm like, wait, what? And then he shook my hand and just kept walking. I was like, what is going on?
That's crazy. That's
amazing. Yeah, that was super unexpected, and I believe that guy's name was Ryan. So Ryan, if you listen to this, know that I have not forgotten you, my friend. that moment will be burned into my memory forever. So yeah, Goldberg holds a little special place just because of that.
I think Ryan just booked the future WrestleMania main event right there.
Maybe so, Mr. Ryan. Maybe so.
You're one of the better big men wrestlers in WWE right now, Brody. Right now, Keith. But what I was going to get to was Brody Lee just passing away a couple days ago, the former Luke Harper. You posted a really nice message on your Twitter a couple days ago regarding his passing and kind of the outpouring of support that's come out about him and everything else. Did you have any experiences working with Brody? Any fond memories of him? In the time that you guys have spent on the wrestling scene?
So I've never worked with him in the ring together. I've had, a few conversations with him, and he's always been an excellent guy. Matter of fact, I did a little kind of like a video tribute recently, and I'm hoping that it's going to come out and be delivered to the right people.
Nice.
So he's always been, one of those rare and few, what I like to call good brothers. Mm-hmm. And I know there's a couple gents that call themselves that, but it is a term that we use for the guys that we can trust and are literal good brothers. Mm-hmm. John was very much that. And unfortunately, in this world today, there are not a lot of decent human beings. John was that, mm-hmm. As far as I was concerned, anyhow. And, he's just a dude that you could have a conversation with, and he was pleasant, and he was concerned, and he was considerate and supportive, would give advice or suggestions whenever needed. But not only that, the one thing that I will not forget, and this is something that I kind of lived vicariously through Dijak, is he and Dijak had a match.
There was the Worlds Collide match, right? At Mania last year?
You are correct, my man. Mm-hmm. And the guy just wanted to go in and have fun, man. And Dijak didn't know what to expect. Like, you work some of these guys that have been around, and it's like, you're like, oh, hold your horses.
Yeah.
And my man John was just like, nah, settle up, bro. We're gonna go in and have some fun and make them, because he wasn't being used that much then, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. So it was a frustrating time.
Yeah.
But seeing that match and the fun that Dijak had, like, that was touching. So not only is he a good human being in general, but in terms of business, just a good dude, man. Mm-hmm. So he's someone that I have absolute respect for, and all the biggest wishes for strength and healing for his family.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And final question for you, Keith. We approach 2021. This is coming out in 2021. We're speaking on December 30th at the moment. What are, obviously resolutions are very, people talk about resolutions all the time, but do you have any predictions or anything you hope to accomplish specifically in 2021? And of course, winning the WWE title next week on Raw is a given, but whether it be at WrestleMania, facing a certain person, winning this title, doing this, doing that, or even anything outside of the ring that you hope to do specifically in 2021. Because as far as 2020 is concerned, we got to get this year out of the way and just move on from it as quickly as possible.
Dude, you're telling me I can't wait for these next couple of days to
Yep.
get out of the way, because goodness gracious. But you know what? I think that I do have some idea of things that I want to do within the next year, and some of them involve solidifying my station in WWE, and by that I mean having high-profile matches and maybe main eventing some pay-per-views and things of that sort. At the very least, getting a taste of what WrestleMania is like to be in it, because that's a different beast, that's a different animal, and to go out there and not just shine, but stand out, be different, be unique, be Keith Lee. Like that's the idea. But I'm just looking forward to seeing what that future holds and the opportunities that come with it.
Definitely. Absolutely. Well, 2021 is bound to be a great year, kicking off in the biggest way possible. You and McIntyre, first Raw of the Year, WWE Championship, should be fantastic. Keith, thanks so much for the time, man. You're an inspiration. You've had a hell of a year. Looking forward to bigger, better things in 2021.
Thanks for having me, man.
Of course, man. Take care. Have a great one. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.